recuperating?
All is well in South Africa. It's a very intense political climate at the moment, but yeah, we are pushing through. Thank you.
Okay, so kindly educate us this morning about the kind of political system the South Africa runs. We here in Ghana, we have our executive president, we have parliament, one parliament. We don't have any house or house of lower house or upper house or whatever, only one parliament. And if the political party wins the presidency, normally they win majority of the seats in parliament. What is the current situation in South Africa?
So South Africa has a proportional representative system, right? And over the couple of years since the dawn of democracy, 30 years, in fact, 2024 is a significant year for us because this is exactly 30 years of democracy since the end of apartheid in 1994. And since 1994, the African National Congress, which is a party that led South Africa as a governing party at the end of apartheid. So we have the ANC being the leading party, and then we have multiple opposition parties. And in the past couple of years, we've had opposition parties like the Democratic Alliance and the Economic Freedom Fighters as one of our main opposition parties, of course, with other multiple parties. So now what we saw in this 2024 elections was an interesting turnaround in terms of how our politics are playing out. As I mentioned, that over the years, the ANC has been the leading political party, which then means that it's a party with majority seats in parliament. And what we saw happen after the announcements of the elections was that the ANC, for the first time since 1994, lost majority seats in parliament. In the 2019 elections, the ANC was sitting at about 230 seats out of about 400 seats in parliament, and these other seats were occupied by other political parties. And now the ANC only managed to win about 159 seats in these elections, which means they lost close to 71 seats. For the first time in our democracy, the ANC now does not have the majority seats in parliament. What we saw, which I think is an interesting thing to highlight, is that the new political party that is led by the former president of South Africa, President Jacob Zuma, a party called Umkhonto weSizwe, managed to get about 58 seats in parliament. And as I mentioned, the Democratic Alliance, which was one of our main opposition parties, got about 87 seats, and the EFF is sitting at 39 seats. So Umkhonto weSizwe, being the new kid on the block, actually was able to take the second the second position that the EFF had been occupying in parliament. So as a result of this, there are ongoing conversations at the moment around coalition government because the ANC has not been able to retain the majority seats that they've had in the past 30 years.
So this means the ANC will have to be engaging in a coalition talk with other small political parties who have gained representation in parliament.
Yeah, so basically what it then means, because they don't have the majority that is required for them, so they now are thinking of getting into a coalition arrangement with other political parties, right? So there are ongoing conversations around that. But what the ANC then said yesterday was that they are now thinking of a government of national unity. And historically, this idea of a government of national unity, it's actually something that was established by President Nelson Mandela at the end of apartheid, where, I mean, you would know our history. It was an uncomfortable space at the time with this unjust apartheid system and apartheid law. So at the end of apartheid, I think part of it was I would imagine that President Madiba was trying to ensure that there's some sort of stability and some sort of unity. So during that time, he established what he called the Government of National Unity, with him as the president and President Thabo Mbeki as his deputy, and President F.W. de Klerk as his deputy. But what happened then was that, I mean, you would understand that this, as I said, this was an attempt to unite us as a nation, and an attempt for some stability of some sort. But of course, this arrangement was short-lived when F.W. de Klerk then decided to leave this coalition arrangement. So oftentimes when we talk about coalition politics in South Africa, people tend to forget that this coalition politics did not start in 2016 when the ANC again lost some of their votes post the 2016 local government elections. It is something that actually had started at the end of apartheid in 1994. So there are ongoing talks at the moment.
Okay.
We are not sure yet which party will the ANC go into a coalition government with. But as I mentioned, they are proposing a government of national unity. And one could argue that they probably also are trying to play with our psyche, because this is something that we saw happen when we transitioned from apartheid into a new democratic government.
Okay. What before we take leave of you, what does this say? Does it mean the people of South Africa, majority of them, are now fed up with the ANC?
Well, one could say, I mean, arguably, there is a lot of democratic disillusionment in South Africa and political dissatisfaction in the manner in which South Africans are enjoying the quality of democracy in South Africa. So, yes, the fact that the ANC for the first time in 30 years, so let me say this before I get to the point I wanted to make, that the ANC has been losing numbers incrementally, right? We've been observing this incremental decline of the supporters of the ANC over there since the 2009 elections. So, the decline has been happening over the years. But this time around, it really the ANC took a hard knock. And yes, one could argue that South Africans are tired of the African National Congress, because the African National Congress has not been able to fulfill some of the promises that they've made to South African citizens. And South African citizens have not been able to enjoy the dividends of democracy and the promises that were made, right? And the fact that now South Africans decided to explore other viable alternatives, that's one. But also, if you look even into our voter turnout, some South Africans actually decided not to go to the polls. For the first time since the dawn of democracy, again, our voter turnout is quite low. I mean, we're sitting at about 58.64% of the voter turnout. That's significantly low, even if we do a comparison and locating it within the global landscape. So some South Africans didn't go to the polls. A high percent of South Africans didn't go to the polls. But some of them gave their votes to other political parties, and then Mkhonto Wesizwe, as the new party, took some of the traditional voters of the African National Congress.
Yeah, okay. We are grateful for your time this morning. We thank you for the update. We shall be coming to you from time to time, periodically, to get ourselves updated as to what is happening in South Africa. We are grateful.
Thank you so much for having me. Have a great day.
All right. Bonolo